Let's get into it. Perspective editing. It's an extremely effective storytelling and editing method that shockingly I don't see enough of in YouTube, especially because it's quite simple. It's going to be the difference between a mediocre edit that feels like it was made with AI and that human touch. For example, here's this Johnny Harris documentary that I edited. We had all of these amazing, grand, epic shots. I mean, yeah, they look cool, I guess, but by the collection of the reaction shots that I have of Johnny, which is just him looking out, I throw those in between as landscape shots. We now suddenly feel the perspective of Johnny understanding the grand scale of the desert. And look, I know that's just the Kuleshov Effect 101. If you don't know what that is, that's why you need to buy my masterclass. Price has been significantly lowered. Alongside consulting, that price has been cut too. But if you do know what the Kuleshov Effect is, I want to be using that concept to be going deeper. And the reason why I'm bringing up perspective editing is because there is a shocking amount of creators who don't do this basic storytelling concept. And I realized that was a problem when I started working with Brandon. Brandon does some of the most compelling yo-yo tricks I've ever seen. And obviously, because of that, he has amassed millions of views. He's good, he's great, he's a YouTuber, he gets it. But not entirely. That's in this one video that he had filmed, everything that he has achieved will be put into question. And because of this, he wanted an extra layer of storytelling, which is why he gave me a call.
Hello, you guys hear me?
Yes, how are you?
Doing great, how you guys doing?
Now, when Brandon and I had our first initial meeting, he was pretty confident in his, well, V1 edit. It wasn't great. So to bring you guys into context, I actually want to show you part of his V1 edit, and I want you guys also in the comments to comment what you think is bad with this editing. I'm sorry, enjoy.
I know what you're thinking. Why was I, Brandon Vu, the yo-yo guy, competing at a Rubik's Cube competition? It might surprise you that I'm not new to the world of competitive Rubik's Cube solving. Before my debut as a competitive yo-yo player, I was an aspiring cuber. Something about that scene in the film The Pursuit of Happiness, where Will Smith solves a Rubik's Cube in the back of a taxi, inspired me to learn how to do it. A few YouTube tutorials later, and I'd learned to solve my very first Rubik's Cube. I was never great, but I memorized the basics. And to this day, the moves required to solve the cube are still burned into my muscle memory. Which makes me wonder, what would have happened had I continued my speeding cube career?
So that was just the first minute of the video, and there was lots of small things that I immediately noticed. Like not tracing eye lines.
Watch how much easier this is to watch when I'm giving the Rubik's Cube the action center frame. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Easy. Or to use multiple instances to create a sense of scale.
Try to get 3 tutorials in there. And after 3 tutorials later, 1, 2, 3.
And I learned to solve my very first Rubik's Cube.
Let's write that down, that sounds cool.
That just simply makes it more impactful. But the biggest thing that I noticed about this edit was that they were just undermining the story. In the opening of the video, we learned the goal. He wants to win a speed cubing competition. Therefore, most videos would just simply do that. And we see the journey of him achieving that goal. So yeah, looking at this, that's the basic premise of this story, and they've got that information in the editing, but they missed a massive opportunity to delve deeper into the... Okay, look, I hate this word because all of these shitty YouTube gurus keep misusing it and overusing it, but conflict. Looking back at the graph, honestly, it's very simple and boring because it doesn't develop the conflict well enough. It's a missed opportunity to obviously use obstacles to prevent achieving that goal. And more interestingly, how will the character themselves be preventing them to achieve? And the conflict can be done with perspective editing! What that really means is just making sure that each shot and cut that you do relates back to his perspective. You want to see the world through his eyes. You need to be looking for reasons to cut back to his face, his reaction. What does X circumstance mean to him? Basically looking for opportunities on what does this information mean for your protagonist. So how do you represent that emotion? How do you represent that tone? How do you represent the story at that point? And that's actually the hardest point of editing. Like, what do you actually do at a certain point of the story? Basically, you just got to be able to look out and see the macro of the story, the structure of the story. And there's one way that I love using in YouTube videos, and it's actually a psychological effect. It is the Dunning-Kruger effect. It was discovered in 1999 by two psychologists that wanted to talk about confident ignorance. And it was all inspired by this hilarious bank robber who covered his face in lemon juice, thinking it would make him invisible to cameras. Now, obviously, he was arrested, but it brought upon the idea of the natural overestimation we have of our ability to the journey we need to take to actually achieve the perceived ability. So obviously, we first arrive at the peak of Mount Stupid. Our confidence is delusionally high, but our competence is astronomically low. Then become humbled with our incompetence fallen into the valley of despair because we become conscious of complexities and nuances to actually achieve. By the way, this is where most people would quit and forget about it, but those that choose to stay then enter the long journey up the slope of enlightenment. This is the phase of practical learning and understanding through experience in learning how to make things work. And their confidence and competence is now slowly rising to then finally hitting the competency to do such ability that they previously arrogantly thought was easy, thus now having a sustainable confidence. And that's nuts, or as the kids say nowadays, man, that's crazy. And here is the big plot twist. Yes, the Dunning-Kruger effect is a psychological effect. But if you look at it the right way, well, it's also a really good storytelling tool. You should look at the Dunning-Kruger effect instead as the Dunning-Kruger narrative. And that can be told with, oh, am I going to say it? Yes, I am. Perspective editing. And there are tons of opportunities to be doing that in this edit. So if we're opening this video by rising up the peak of Mount Stupid, let's use perspective editing to represent that emotional arrogance. So with that intro hook tease, let's create stakes by adding perspective with the competition.
This, I don't know whose perspective this is in, because there's any moments of you looking around. Oh, I'm really nervous. Oh wow, he's doing really good. Oh god, and then you begin, and then it cuts. I would have preferred to have seen that story instead.
Already just with that, we're shooting up to the peak of Mount Stupid. So then, let's create a bit of a contrast.
Here's you being an expert at a yo-yo, so we see how skilled you are, and then we have a shot of you maybe struggling with this. Here's you being professional, here's you being amateur.
Why was I, Brandon Vu, the yo-yo guy, competing at a Rubik's Cube competition?
Now I see a journey.
If the footage presents this to you, focus on moments when the protagonist is arrogant or is not taking it seriously.
And if you don't have it, film it.
Inspired me to learn how to do it.
If we can get a shot of you watching this on the TV, that would have been far more interesting. It keeps it in Brandon's perspective.
Inspired me to learn how to do it.
Oh, goddamn! Being inspired by a great is excellent motivation, because by trying to be them, it also speed runs to the peak of Mount Stupid. Hello, obvious pickup, and this goes for tone and emotion as well. Obviously, one of the ways is with music. So let's characterize being a Rubik's Cube master with a sense of high society.
Alright there, Turbo.
Or absolute badassery.
I'm an animal fresh out the cage, coming through, so get out the
Alright
way.
there, Turbo.
And if you're unfamiliar and curious about which music platforms I'm using, I'd love to tell you, but they're not sponsoring this video, and we are in a capitalist society. So I'm not going to tell you unless they're sponsoring the video. However, I actually do hope that you've been noticing the extra character in this video. So I'm pretty sure you've noticed these beautiful shots, but also the tools in them. This is Logitech's new MX Creative Console, and it's really cool. With the dial, the scrolling across timelines is absolute instinct. Also, look at the keypad. It's beautiful. I've customized it to have hotkeys and macros. All of these tools have just kept me in that creative mindset. And this is quite shocking. When you buy a device from Logitech, Logitech can give you the entire Adobe Cloud Suite for 3 months for free. But genuinely using a Logitech hardware is a beautiful way to edit. So yeah, get your editing hardware from Logitech. Anyways, we've established them being at the peak of Mount Stupid, and now we've thrown them into the Valley of Despair. Again, with perspective editing, we need to see the world through Brandon's eyes. And if it's not in the footage, well, you can just still do reshoots. I actually told Brandon to reshoot one of the scenes.
So with cubing hotter than ever, I thought I'd resume my cubing career where it left off.
And if you want to refilm this, in terms of storytelling, we're wondering why you're panning the camera down and the Rubik's Cubes are already in shot because this is at the top of all of those possessions. And so the loop of what you're revealing has already been closed. That tells me that it's used frequently already.
Okay.
But by putting it underneath an object as if it was hidden, thrown away, forgotten about.
I felt like it was time to remind everybody just how good at this cubing thing I really was.
And he even has to blow dust off it. That again is what is throwing him now into the Valley of Despair. Also in Brandon's edit, he introduces an expert, but how he came in was really underwhelming.
But I couldn't do it alone.
Hey, Ari. Nice to finally meet you in person, man. Yeah, let me help you with that.
So I'm here with my cubing friend Ari.
I don't know who this person is, so I don't care. Show me 3 textual shots of him doing some really, really, really cool shit. So put him on a pedestal straight away, and then you meet him.
Couldn't do it alone. I needed a guide.
Nice to finally meet you in person, man.
By introducing an actual expert with badassery, already humbles Brandon. Let's keep him in that Valley of Despair for a little bit. So let's double down on humbling him.
At least we solved it, you know?
And then ideally, if there's any moment when the expert shakes his head or sighs or laughs, I even saw him putting his eyes up like, ugh, put that in there. Because that little look he does is really funny.
At least we solved it, you know?
Have your protagonist fail early. That's engaging, that's interesting. And now we get to enjoy seeing someone grow. Hello, another obvious pickup. And grow we do as we finally begin to go up the slope of enlightenment, experiencing the lessons that they need to achieve, and thus achieving the goal. And if you want me to go into how to tell that story through perspective editing, well, I want you to kind of Dunning-Kruger yourself. Try it out on your own. I've given you so much information on how to do this. I can't give you all of the answers, otherwise you won't learn. I need to see you do it in the practical world. The reason why I want you to try it out is because the Dunning-Kruger narrative is actually a modernization of a popular YouTube storytelling format. Because it's adjacent to one of the golden rules of web media. Immediately deliver the promise of the video that demands the audience's trust and attention. We know this works. It's a proven retention tactic. Then overload them with even more quick, satisfying short loops until we've hijacked their brain long enough to trick them into the end of the video. Now yes, that's efficient. You've seen that story structure in so many YouTube videos. But you gotta admit, it's fucking boring. You see it and you go, okay, cool, and you move on and forget about it. Dunning-Kruger narrative is simply improving that idea by, yes, giving the audience a visualization of the goal and the action to showcase potentially achieving that goal, but just by shyly missing it. Come on, you felt the emotional tug there of this line not crossing that line. It's so interesting how us as humans instinctively want this gap closed. Therefore, as a storyteller, it's fun to withhold that satisfaction, tease it a little. Therefore, motivate an excellent start to the story. We immediately see a protagonist enter a world with overconfidence and then quickly humbled, thus motivating a story with clear opportunity for change and transformation. That's the extra element of storytelling here. We're not just showing that we can deliver a promise, we're also promising a transformative story with depth. We get to have our cake and eat it too. And if we want to speak in retention languages, we've also told you the goal, what he wants to achieve. Now that you know that, you want to see it. I hate how simple that is, but that's true. We like to see lines cross another line. We're so simple-minded. Fuck's sake.
Close the loop storytelling. Oh, close the loop. It's good for retention. Fuck! I'm so bored of talking about this stuff.
Anyways, I don't know how to actually end this video. So if you want consulting, you could go on hillier-smith.com. And if not, fuck off.